So as we taxi out here, we're starting to listen to the radio and paint a picture in our head of what's going on around the airport. We're looking for other aircraft coming in, landing, taking off, other guys taxiing out, and of course, as always, spending all your time looking outside the airplane while taxiing, never looking inside at a checklist or at the instruments or anything else while you're taxiing the airplane. Not until you're stopped would you ever move your eyes inside the cockpit. As we come up to the runway here, we're going to want to make sure that we don't turn directly towards the runway. We're going to want to aim slightly away from the runway so that we get a good view of base and final.
Venice traffic 272 Echo Charlie, departing runway 5. We'll be departing to the west, Venice.
Venice traffic 814, close runway 5 at Bravo, Venice.
Alright, so the Skyhawk's clear. That Dakota is taking off from runway 5. We'll go ahead and hold short here. Give him some room to work with. We'll go ahead and run through our before takeoff checklist, make sure we haven't missed anything.
So while the little man in the airplane is going through his before takeoff checklist, let's talk about what we're going to do here. Remember, we're pulled up to the runway, but we're not aimed directly at it. We're aimed slightly off, more at the final approach course, so that we can see everyone coming in on a left base, a right base, or final. We're going to check, clear the sky. We already have that mental picture in our head of where everyone is, and we're going to use proper radio phraseology. There's a good example of very close but not quite proper phraseology just before when that Dakota took off. Proper phraseology is going to be those 4 W's. Who you're calling, who you are, where you are, and what you want to do or what you're going to do. At an uncontrolled field, you're always going to start and end your transmission with who you're calling, which in this case is going to be Venice traffic, where typically with a towered airport, you just say who you're calling at the beginning and you end your transmission with simply what you want to do. As we roll up to the hold short line here, let's think before we get out into the runway, and especially before we key up that mic, what we're going to say. Think to talk, don't talk to think. So before we key up that mic, what are we going to say? We're going to say Venice traffic, Cherokee 07 Whiskey, departing runway 5, Venice traffic. That tells everyone basically who we're calling, Venice, who we are, Cherokee 07 Whiskey, where we are, we're departing runway 5, so they can assume that we're at the departure end of runway 5 and we're going to be heading about a 050 heading upwind of the runway. And that also includes what we want to do. So that's our entire radio transmission, and of course we end it with Venice traffic. Let's go ahead and see what it's like when you do it from inside the airplane.
I don't see anybody else coming in on a left base or a right base or final for runway 5. We'll go ahead and take the runway. We'll make our departing call. Venice traffic, Cherokee 07 Whiskey, departing runway 5, Venice traffic. And it's that simple, very short. You don't have to give a full story of what we plan to do today over the radio. Want to make it nice, quick, and concise.
Now that we're upwind of the runway, we are past the departure end of the runway and we're climbing upwind towards our crosswind leg. The next proper radio call for this leg would be
Venice traffic, Cherokee 07 Whiskey, upwind runway 5, Venice traffic.
Hello.
Now, not everyone makes that upwind call. Typically, airplanes that climb slower, that spend a lot of time on upwind would make that call. It's great to make it because it lets everyone know where you are, especially if you haven't made a call since maybe you were back on final.
We'll roll out on our left crosswind. Venice traffic, Cherokee 07 Whiskey, left crosswind, runway 5, Venice traffic.
And as soon as we roll out into the crosswind leg, we want to go ahead and make that radio call just as you heard. It's going to be the standard radio call, who you are calling, who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. So it is Venice traffic, Cherokee 07 Whiskey, left crosswind, runway 5, Venice traffic. And as we roll onto the left downwind, we can go ahead and make our left downwind call right away.
And we'll roll onto our downwind leg here, a little bit of left right rudder. And we're going to go ahead and reduce power as we come up to 1,000 feet here. Venice traffic, Cherokee 07 Whiskey, left downwind, runway 5, Venice traffic. Letting the nose kind of slice through the horizon as we lower the nose and stop our climb. Roll in right aileron, right rudder.
And the reason for making the call right away like that, as we're rolling out of our left turn, is to maybe let traffic that's following behind us know that we've turned crosswind, and it's good for them to go ahead and transition from flying their upwind to crosswind. Then that helps with spacing when there's a lot of airplanes on the pattern. So it's good to make those calls right away as you're making those turns to let everyone know exactly what your airplane is doing right when you're doing it. As you come to the middle point of the traffic pattern, basically the midpoint of that rectangle, some people will announce that they are midfield left downwind for runway 5, especially common when someone's entering the traffic pattern at the midfield point on the left downwind as you're supposed to at a 45-degree angle. So the midfield left downwind is simply that point right there that is halfway through your downwind leg. After you beam your touchdown point, you're going to configure for landing as you normally would and start your descent. And of course, just as before, as soon as you roll into the base leg, you're going to want to make that left base announcement.
We're going to go ahead and roll onto our left base. We're clear on the left.
Traffic, Cessna 7270 Hotel. We're coming down the coastline at 1,000 feet. We're just going to transition the airspace from north to south, heading to Fort Myers at Venice.
Venice traffic, Cherokee 07 Whiskey, left base runway 5, Venice traffic. So we got a Cessna that's coming down the coast at 1,000 feet, overflying, right along the shoreline, right over top of the airport. We'll go ahead and stay underneath them as we're making our approach here.
And as we roll onto our left base leg there, we're roughly 700 to 800 feet AGL at this point, with our traffic pattern being 1,000 AGL. We're going to continue our descent through our base leg. We're keeping an eye out for traffic. Really have that mental picture in your mind now of where everyone else is. And of course, as we approach final here, we're going to look out to our right, make sure that the final approach path is clear. We're not cutting anyone else off that's maybe on a long 5-mile or 10-mile final like some sort of jet. And of course, we'll make our final announcement next.
And we can go ahead and roll on to final. Venice traffic, Cherokee 07 Whiskey, final runway 5, Venice traffic.
So we've gone ahead and turned final, roughly 500 feet AGL, and again, this is just final approach. It's not a left final, it's not a right final, it's just straight in final. So there's never going to be such a thing as a left final or a right final, despite what some joker might tell you. As we make our final approach here, we're going to take into account any crosswinds, any gust factor. We're going to keep an eye out for any other airplanes that might pull out in front of us. Say if there was someone getting ready to take off and they did not pay attention, didn't hear our radio calls, didn't see us on final, they might pull in front of us. We might have to be ready to do a go around at any moment here. And if at any point the approach goes badly, we want to be ready to go around and get back in the air to safety. So always have that hand on the throttle ready to go around. We'll go ahead and roll out here, make our left turn off the runway once we've come to a nice safe speed. And once we clear the whole short line, our tail's clear of that line so that our aircraft is totally clear of the runway, we'll go ahead and make our final radio call.
Venice traffic, Cherokee 07 Whiskey, clear, runway 5, Venice traffic.
So that is it for our traffic pattern calls. Of course, there may be some other ones that we'll take a look at later on, as if you're approaching from several miles out, or if we were going to be departing the pattern. But for doing strictly pattern work, flying around the airport, those are the calls we're going to be making. And of course, at this point, as we taxi back into the ramp, we'd make a radio call, let everyone know what taxiway we're using and where we're going. So if we're using taxiway Bravo, we'd let them know that we're using Bravo, back to the ramp, or back to parking, back to the FBO, so on. So that's all we have for radio calls in the traffic pattern. Thank you so much for watching. Fly safe.